low vision, or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Michelle, and for the next hour I'll be reading from the March 22nd issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Cover story: Everything You Need to Know About Dune 3 by Itzel Luna. There are still 9 months to go before audiences can return to Arrakis. Until then, Warner Brothers has released a trailer to hold us over. Dune Part 3, which takes place nearly 2 decades after the events of the sequel, promises more political upheaval, introduces a ruthless new villain, and teases Paul and Chani's future child, according to a trailer released Monday. Dune stars Zendaya and Xavier Bardem joined Denis Villeneuve to preview the trailer for the conclusion to this famed sci-fi trilogy. New cast members Anya Taylor-Joy and Robert Pattinson were also in attendance at the AMC event, while Timothy Chalamet, Florence Pugh, and Jason Momoa sent video messages. It's a trailer launch. It looks like a premiere, Villeneuve said during the event, which included a Q&A with the cast, and was met by thunderous applause from the audience. Zendaya, who stars in the films as Chani, a Freeman warrior, expressed excitement about the upcoming film, saying, "The movies have meant so much to me over the years. I've literally been able to grow up in my entire 20s doing them, and so they have such a special place in my heart." Here's everything to know about Dune Part 3. The trilogy's final installment picks up 17 years after the second movie, though the trailer hints at continued war and political turmoil. Paul Atreides, played by Chalamet, is dealing with the consequences of defeating the Harkonnens and becoming emperor, struggling with his role as the Freeman's Messiah. The trailer hints at a possible future child between Paul and Chani. The pair, who are introduced as potential love interests in the first movie, were split up at the end of the second film, with Paul marrying Princess Irulan, played by Puff, in a political move to ensure his accession to the throne. In the trailer, Chani asks Paul, "If we have a girl, what will we name her?" hinting at a possible reconciliation. In a pre-recorded video played during the event, Puff addressed the love triangle and asked Zendaya what her character thinks of Aurelian's marriage to Paul. "You guys will just have to see for yourself what happens, because it's quite the journey," Zendaya said. At the heart of the third movie, Villeneuve said, is a love story, adding that the heartbeat of the film is still the relationship between Paul and Chani, according to Deadline. The trailer also offers a sneak peek at continued battles in the universe, even years after Paul, the Chosen One, becomes emperor. The final installment of the trilogy will hit theaters December 18th. Dune Part 3 is inspired by Dune Messiah, the second novel in Frank Herbert's Dune series. The first 2 films were adapted from the first novel. Villeneuve had planned to temporarily step away from the Dune universe, but felt a responsibility to finish the story after seeing audience excitement for the second film, which was released in 2024. The first 2 movies were box office hits, collectively grossing more than $1 billion worldwide. Part 2 won 2 Oscars, and the first film earned 6 Oscars out of 10 nominations, primarily in the technical categories. The third film is a very different movie, Villeneuve said Monday. "It's a good idea to come back to those worlds, not by nostalgia but by urgency," he said. "If the first movie was contemplation, a boy exploring a new world, and the second one is a war movie, this one is a thriller. It's action-packed and tense, more muscular." The trailer's exclusive screening was introduced via video message by Calumet, who said Villeneuve's third film is a true act of cinema. This film would not exist without the master of cinema, the great artist that is Denis Villeneuve, Calumet said. I'm not alone in saying thank you to Denis for his dedication in bringing the Dune films to life, and now the Dune trilogy to life. Momoa, who starred in the first film as Duncan Idaho before his character was killed off, will be back in the third installment, he announced. Taylor-Joy, who had a brief cameo in the second movie, will return as Paul's younger sister, Alia. Patterson will take on the role of shape-shifting villain Skytail. Pattinson's son said he got the job just months after he asked Zendaya how he would join the Dune cast while on set filming their black comedy, The Drama. Everybody wants to work with Denis. He's a master, Patterson said. When you see the scope and scale and ambition of these movies, like on the set, you get why you feel this like this on the screen. It's just extraordinary. Gusto cover story. Ready or Not, Here I Come sticks with rules of the game by Katie Walsh. It has never been easier to believe that an international cabal of billionaires regularly exploit their bodies of young girls and women. In fact, there are files upon files of evidence about such activity now available for public perusal. But back in 2019, when Ready or Not was released, this was the territory of the conspiracy theorists. The action horror comedy made by the filmmaking team known as Radio Silence followed a young bride, Grace, played by Samara Weaving, fending off her brand new in-laws in a bloodthirsty game of hide-and-seek at her wedding night, a kind of initiation ritual. That premise is scary enough, but in the climax, things get supernaturally satanic in a goofy way. So in the sequel, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, the rules of the game had already been established, and in this world, spoiler alert, the wealthy Satan worshippers explode like bloody water balloons when they lose or cheat. Now the franchise is married to the gimmick, which unfortunately saps any inclusive eat the rich cultural commentary. Why make the devil real when the real devil is all too human? Wouldn't it be more cutting to reveal that their fears and rules are a constructed belief that has no otherworldly enforcement? But that's not what Ready or Not is, and that is decidedly not what Ready or Not 2, Here I Come is either. The sequel, once again co-written and directed by Matt Bettinelli, opened, and Tyler Gillett, co-written by Guy Busick and Christopher Murphy, doubles down in every way, picking right up when the first one ends. We now have two Bambi-eyed blondes, our battered bride Grace and her estranged sister Faith, played by Catherine Newton. We now have not just one family trying to kill the bride, but an international coalition of powerful families vying to do so. Elijah Wood shows up to explain the rules and bylaws of the cult that lead to such a battle royale, but essentially a power vacuum is left when Grace bested the Ladomus family in the first movie, and so a powerful patriarch, played by David Cronenberg, arranges it so that his twins, Ursula and Titus, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar and Sean Hennessy, can fight it out to gain control on the global satanic cult. Grace and Faith are drugged and dumped on the golf course of a resort repurposed for this event, where they will win if they can survive until sunrise. Grace is still wearing her bloodied wedding gown and yellow Chuck Taylors from the first movie for her second round of hide-and-seek. There is something fun about a most dangerous game kind of story, and Ready or Not 2 does not bear flashes of that, when it's not bogged down by all the satanic lore. The sisters get to work out their issues while dodging attempted murder by the families, with a few cheeky nods to wedding rituals like an inspired dance floor brawl set to Total Eclipse of the Heart. but the rest of the film is light on character and heavy on concept and exposition. Newton has the most to work with as the spunky, snappy younger sister who just wants her big sis to stick around for once, and she delivers the best performance. Weaving is mostly stuck in one gear, quivering and panicky. Maybe it's just the current era, but the flip tone paired with psychologically extreme violence just doesn't ironically mesh the way it used to be. The snarky, sardonic attitude feels outdated, and it's disturbing to see our young heroines battered by Titus and the cult members so intensely. Back in 2019, Ready or Not was a high-concept fear fantasy executed with outlandish supernatural splatter. It was even on the money with its evil oligarch themes. But Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, feels behind the ball, and unfortunately this is no escaping horror romp. Read the news instead if you'd like a real scare. Television. Scarpetta. Curtis Kidman team up for serial adaptation of Patricia Cornwell's books by Gary Gerard Hamilton. When Jamie Lee Curtis' blockbuster film True Lies premiered worldwide, it would have been improbable to think that 30 years later she would be giddy about a TV show, about as improbable as performing her iconic helicopter stunt without special effects. I guarantee you, when I was literally hanging under a helicopter above the Florida Keys over the 7-mile bridge in Florida, I did not imagine I'd be sitting in New York City that many years later with Nicole Kidman, Curtis said. Not only being co-bosses on the show, but then also playing her slutty sister. I was not imagining that as my future. The duo co-executive produced and starred Scarpetta, a new mystery crime series from Prime Video, based on Patricia Cornwell's popular books. Curtis credits Kidman as one of the major Hollywood players who helped shrink the gulf between perceptions of film and TV roles with prestige series like Big Little Lies and 9 Perfect Strangers. Kidman plays the titular character Dr. Kay Scarpetta, a forensic pathologist who solves complex murders. Upon returning to Virginia, she comes across cases eerily reminiscent of one 3 decades prior that catapulted her career forward. To prepare for the role, Kidman spent time with the medical examiner in Tennessee, where she learned how to hold a scalpel and how to identify and dissect organs. My sister and my mother were obsessed with the novels, so I would read them, Kidman said. When I mentioned it to my sister, she was like, well, I mean, that's it. You have to do it. Perfect timing for an adaptation. The book rights to Cornwell's iconic fiction series were optioned throughout the years, with megastars sometimes attached, including actors Demi Moore, Angelina Jolie, and even Kidman previously, but those iterations didn't come to fruition. At the 2021 Oscars, Kidman approached Curtis' table and introduced herself. They'd never met, despite working in similar circles for decades. Months later, when Kidman heard Curtis was leading the charge on Scarpetta, she wanted in. I have a philosophy whose characters come to you at the right time, Kidman said. When she first considered playing Kay Scarpetta, the timing wasn't right and neither were the scripts. But the second time it all came together. Here she is and I'm ready now, she said, reflecting on her decision to embrace the project. Curtis plays Scarpetta's free-spirited sister Dorothy. She had no intention of acting in the show, but agreed to Kidman's request. The 8-episode season was led by showrunner Liz Sarnoff, whose credits include Lost and Barry. The cast includes Emmy winner Bobby Cannavale as Pete Marino, Kay's ex-partner and Dorothy's husband, and the Mentalist star Simon Baker, who plays FBI profiler and Scarpetta's husband Ben Wesley. Ariana DuBois is Dorothy's tech-savvy daughter, primarily raised by Kay. A companion storyline set in the 90s follows the Doctor's early career, with Rosie McEwen, who bears a striking resemblance at Kidman, portraying the younger version. Jack Carnevale, Bobby's son, plays the young Marino, with Hunter Parrish portraying babyface Benton. Season 1 of Scarpetta is available to stream on Prime Video. The Forsytes is gorgeous to look at, but right on plot, by Maura MacDonald. The opening credits of The Forsytes set the tone of the show with uncanny accuracy. On one hand, it's thoroughly Downton Abbey with elegantly hummable theme, music image of expensive looking glassware, calligraphy, calling cards, and gazebos, and an alphabetical parade of names indicating a large and impressive cast. On the other, the sequence images look weirdly computer-generated, like perfect spun sugar imitations of things rather than the things themselves. And that's basically what you get with The Forsytes, a gorgeous, soapy, yet airless drama, a treat to look at, but quickly forgotten. The Forsytes, which made its debut on British television late last year, is already signed for 2 more seasons, so perhaps things will get livelier in subsequent episodes. For those hoping for another Downton Abbey, it definitely isn't that. The characters in Downton, by comparison, practically jump off the screen. But this high-toned soap is lovely to look at, and perhaps these days, that's enough. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the March 22nd issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News and the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Movies. Stellar Adventure by Adam Graham. It's almost spring, and here comes Project Hail Mary, a big old popcorn movie that comes slathered in extra buttery topping and plays like it's the middle of summer. The sci-fi adventure concerns no less than the fate of the world, and yet it centers on a friendship between a man and his alien sidekick. It's a little bit Close Encounters of the Third Kind, a little bit Mac and Me, and a little bit Apollo 13, all whipped together to please any audience member with a pulse. Sometimes you can feel those levers being pulled a little too heavily, but one would have to go out of their way to not enjoy this film. Project Hail Mary stars Ryan Gosling in a megawatt movie star mode as Dr. Ryland Grace, an unassuming middle school science teacher who gets called in to lead a mission to outer space to save humankind. He's not trained for any such assignment, but that's exactly what makes him just the man for the job. Movie logic working overtime. Grace awakens to find himself on a spacecraft hurtling through the cosmos. No idea of who he is or how he got there. In flashback, we see him approached and recruited by Eva Stratt, Anatomy of a Fall Oscar nominee Sandra Huller, leading an important sense of gravitas to the project. A high-ranking government official who followed some of Grace's early research and wants him for a mission to save Earth. If it fails, she estimates a quarter of the human population will die within 30 years, and that's the best-case scenery. So here's our hero, alone in space. His fellow crew members Yi Li Lee, played by Ken Leung, and Olesa Olikina, played by Melania Veratrube, didn't last long, trying to figure out his mission. Eventually the details start coming back to him, which is around the time he makes the acquaintance of an alien life form, a small creature who looks like a spider made of rocks, when Grace dubbed apparently enough, Rocky. Rated PG-13. It doesn't reach the high levels of Gravity or Arrival, interplanetary blockbusters from the past 15 years, which in addition to being rollicking thrill machines also were heady exercises in existentialism. They also had much shorter run times. Project Hail Mary stays closer to Earth, but still managed to achieve liftoff. Take the ride. Western Riviera Theater just announced Todd Rundgren, July 6th. Jeff Tates, November 4th. On sale now. Pink, March 28th. Strangelove, April 4th. Best Friends Girl, April 10th. The McCartney Experience, April 11th. A Tribute to Tina Turner, April 17th. John Wayne, April 25th. Love Sexy, A Tribute to Prince, May 8th. Rush Experience, May 15 and 16. The American Ride, Tribute to Toby Keith, May 22nd. Starry Starry Night, Dan McClellan, May 28th. Smells Like Nirvana, May 29th. Like Combs, May 30th. Tapestry, the Carole King Songbook, June 5th. Awaken, June 6th. Things to do. Tara Westover, Reinhardt, Bricata, Tribute, 80s Party. Babel with Tara Westover, 7:30 Thursday, March 26th, Kleinhans Music Hall. She was the youngest of 7 children in a Mormon fundamentalist family. Living in isolation in the mountains of Idaho, she was abused by her brother. Her only education came from homeschooling, with reading often limited to the Bible. But against the odds, Tara Westover survived. She attended school for the first time at 17 and graduated from Brigham Young University in Cambridge. When she looked for ways to help her deal with her harshness and abuse of her early life, she realized it could be found with her own story, Educated, a memoir, debuted as #1 in the New York Times bestseller list and continues to inspire readers. Ted/Bruce 1. Remember Ted Reinhardt and Bruce Bricata, 5 p.m. Sunday, March 22nd in the Cave, Military Road. Friends of the late Buffalo Music Hall of Famers Ted Reinhardt and Bruce Bricata have been keeping their memories alive through a memorial scholarship that was started in 2017. The $10 admission from this new concert, which organizers plan to be an annual event, will benefit the Ted Reinhardt and Bruce Bricata Memorial Scholarship for music students at Kenmore East High School, their alum matter. Performances are by friends and former bandmates of the late musicians. The concert opens with an acoustic set by Paul Clare and Steven Weisenberger, followed by the Dooleys. Doors open at 4 p.m. Sunday, March 22nd, today, 5 p.m. Birdling 101, Birds of Parkside, 6:30 Tuesday, March 24th in the Church of the Good Shepherd, 96 Jewett Parkway. This indoor event, sponsored by the Parkside Community Association, brings together birders in preparation for the spring migration. A follow-up outdoor event is planned for the spring. Wonderful Soul Sessions, 5:30 to 7:30 Thursday, March 26th, the Tri-Main Center, Main Street, Suite 441. Musicians, artists, and cultural institutions are often looking for ways to bring people together and build community. This is one of the newest examples. The Eat Off Art Collaborative, located inside the Tri-Main Center, has created an artist residency where the selected artist musician curates an event and mini concert with emerging musicians, professionals, and intergenerational ensembles. For the first event, educator and Buffalo Music Hall of Fame member Linda Appleby is presenting Generational Vibrations, using the talents of Villa Maria College students Zena Brown and Tahira Muhammad, Jonah Lee Goodsmith, Joseph Havoc Brown, and J.C. Garcia. Admission is $5, and proceeds support the future programming of the arts-based non-profit Cultural Incorporated. Boating 716 show and sale, March 26th to the 29th in the Event Center at the Hamburg Fairgrounds, South Park Avenue, Hamburg. Each summer-related event, such as this one, reminds us that despite the snow, warm weather is on the way. At least 9 regional boat dealers, vendors will be in the Event Center, showcasing brands such as Barletta, Stingray, Suzuki Outboards, and Yamaha. New and used boats will be displayed along with the boating accessories. Admission and parking are free. Hours are noon to 8, March 26th to the 28th, and 10 to 4, March 29th. World's largest 80s party with Nerds Gone Wild. 7 p.m. Saturday, March 28th in Samuel's Grand Manor, Main Street. Wear your favorite 80s costumes and attire for this nostalgic dance party that also raises money and awareness for pediatric cancer. Party band Nerds Gone Wild hosts this 4th annual event to support its Nerds for Hope charity for Hope Rises and its Shine Gold for the Kids campaign. Crazy Beats DJ starts things off. Nerds Gone Wild takes the stage at 8:30. There will be a costume contest, photo booth, and celebrity hosts. Quick calendar. Ladies First Jazz Big Band, 2 p.m. today at Classics 5. Active Jazz with Joel Ross, Good Vibes, 4 p.m. today, Sunday, in the Buffalo AKG Art Museum. Family Night, Local Fossils and Dino Hunters, 5:30 to 7:30 Tuesday, March 24th, the Niagara History Center. The Fell, featuring Billy Sheehan, Toby Rand, Mike Krampus, Nick Cirori, 6:30 March 25th in the Evening Star Concert Hall, Niagara Falls Boulevard. Thursday Night Terrors, Critters 40th Anniversary, 7:30 and 9:45 Thursday, March 26th in the Dibson Amherst Theater. Breakfast with Bassett's, ABC Bassett's Rescue Fundraiser. Coffee, donuts, and Bassett's, 10 to noon, Saturday, March 28th. Premier Dog Sports and Event Center, Lancaster Parkway. Just announced. John Gallagher Jr. with Hannah Winkler, 7 p.m. April 6th in the Sportsman's Tavern. Chris Smithers, 8 p.m. June 6th in the 9th Ward at Bayville. Trey Anastasio, Acoustic Evening. 7:30, June 20th, Kleinhans Music Hall. Judy Collins, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes Farewell Tour, 7 p.m., June 25th, Ashbury Hall at Bayville. Taj Mahal and the Phantom Blues Band, 7 p.m., July 7th, Ashbury Hall. Benice 25 Years of Passion, 8 p.m., July 14th in Ashbury Hall, Bayville. DJO with the Pond, 7 p.m., July 23rd at Art Park Outdoor Amphitheater, Lewiston. Danielle Donato's Cosmic Country, 7 p.m., August 13th in the Town Ballroom, Main Street. Andy Graham with Walk Off the Earth, 7 p.m., August 21st in the Art Park Outdoor Amphitheater, Lewiston. Minus the Bear, 7 p.m., September 14th in the Town Ballroom, Main Street. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the March 22nd issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News. Television. NBC's Olympic coverage gave WGR a boost in February. The local ratings for the Winter Olympics in Milan and Cortina, Italy, helped the WGRZ TV Channel 2 News Department get the gold medal during the February sweeps period. With a stronger lead-in from Olympics coverage than it normally receives, Channel 2 defeated CBS affiliate WIVB-TV Channel 4 in Nielsen household ratings in all time periods the stations compete in except 11 p.m. There was a stark difference from the results in the first November ratings book 3 months earlier by Nielsen without both of Channel 4's legendary co-anchors Don Postal and Jackie Walker. In November, the CBS affiliate remained number one in household viewing in all time periods measured by Nielsen, except 6 a.m., with its new anchor lineup of Kelsey Anderson, Dave Graber, and Marley Tusks. And in the February sweeps, the 2025 Channel 4 was also dominant. During the February ratings period, Channel 2 averaged a strong 4.1 daytime rating for an hour at 4.4 p.m. leading into the 5 p.m. newscast to Channel 4's 3.5 rating at 4 of 3.5. In November, without the Olympics, Channel 4 held a 3.3 to 2.3 edge at 4 p.m. A rating point in Western New York is equivalent to 6,000 households. Channel 2 averaged a 3.8 rating from noon to 5 weekdays and 6.6 rating from 8 to 11 for 2 weeks of Olympic coverage during the February sweeps. Although those ratings were underwhelming compared to previous Olympics, they were strong in the days of decreased broadcast viewership. Here's a quick look at the local news numbers. 6 a.m. Channel 2's Daybreak team of Melissa Holmes, Pete Gallivan, Patrick Hammer averaged a 4.5 rating compared to 3.6 combined rating on Channel 4 and sister station WNLO in the period of anchor transition. Channel 7 with anchors Katie Morse and Ed Dranch is third with a 1.4 rating. 5 p.m. Channel 2's anchor team of Scott Levitt and Mary Alice Demler finished first ahead of Channel 4's Anderson and Gribber newscasts. It's difficult to determine how big the margin was because of apparent complications from Olympic coverage overruns. Channel 7's newscast anchored by Jeff Russo was a distant third. 5:30. Channel 2's newscast anchored by Levine and Claudine Ewing is ahead of Anderson and Graber's newscast by a small margin that once again was apparently complicated by Olympic coverage. Channel 7 Voices with Michael Wooten was a distant third. Levine and Demler's newscast at 6 averaged a 7.5 rating, while Anderson and Graber's newscast averaged a 6.7. Russo's Channel 7 newscast averaged 3.9. 11 p.m. Despite the first place lead in Channel 2 received in prime time for the Olympics, Channel 4's newscast, anchored by Tusks, finished ahead of Channel 2's newscast, anchored by Levine and Demler. Channel 7 newscast, anchored by Phoeben Kosman, was third. ComScore. This rating service measures things much differently and gives the stations much higher ratings than Nielsen does. It also measures different days. While Nielsen measured viewership from January 29th to February 25th, ComScore measured from January 26th through February 20th. ComScore gave Channel 2 another strong ratings book with wins at 6:30 a.m., 6 a.m., 5:30 p.m., 6 p.m., and 11 p.m. NBC's Today and Nightly News and CBS Colbert were first in their time periods in February, just as they were in Nielsen. CBS newscast anchored by Duke Copill was ahead of Muir's ABC newscast for second place in ComScore. A year ago, CBS also was number 2. Books. 12 titles to add to you to be read list for spring by Eric Peterson. These are challenging times by any metric, but here's something that's also true. 2026 is shaping up to be a great year for books. Some of our most talented writers are delivering novels, nonfiction, and poetry in the coming months. If you want to lose yourself in a good book or just take a break from whatever it is you need to break from, rest easy knowing that there is a stellar lineup of titles coming to your local independent bookstore. So here are 12 books to put on your calendar, and you can be assured of at least one thing. This represents just some of the titles I'm looking forward to reading and sharing with you as we approach spring. So let's get started. A World Appears by Michael Pollan. Pollan has taken readers on all kinds of trips throughout his career, and this may be one of his most adventurous. In this nonfiction investigation, he attempts to figure out what human consciousness is, even as we face challenges from AI and ponder the question of what it means to be a person. Out now. Kin, author Tahari Jones. In this follow-up to her super successful bestseller, An American Marriage, Joan returns with a novel about the divergent paths taken by two young women growing up without their mothers in the South. The author will be talking to us about the book in an upcoming story. Publication date out now. Brawler, author Lauren Gruff. Gruff is so well known for her National Book Award nominated novels Fates and Furies and Matrix that you could almost forget she's an exceptional short story writer. Her collection, Florida, was also a finalist for the National Book Award, and it won the Story Prize, so you can expect Brawler to hit hard. We have an interview coming up with that, too. Publication date is out now. Python's Kiss, author Louise Erdrich. In her new collection of short fiction, National Book Award and Pulitzer Prize winner Erdrich composes stories that deliver rich experiences in a variety of settings. A girl and her aunt discussing wedding dresses, a part-time school bus driver navigating a blizzard, an afterlife featuring unexpected holdovers from Earth. Expect these pieces to delight, surprise, and transport you. And you'll be speaking with her about this book too. Publication date March 24th. A Suit or a Suitcase, author Maggie Smith. Known for her devastating poem Good Bones, Smith has found success with her memoir You Could Make This Place Beautiful, and nonfiction works on creativity and inspiration. Dear writer, and keep moving. This new book is a return to poetry, and it's a title piece alone has us excited to read more. Publication date March 24th. Son of Nobody, author Yann Martel. In his first novel in a decade, the best-selling author of Life of Pi returns with a story about a scholar who finds a lost epic poem about the Trojan War, which has uncanny correlations to his own life as he works on translating it. Publication date March 31st. London Falling, a mysterious death in the Gilded City and a family's search for truth. Author Patrick Radden Keefe. Author of one of the best works of nonfiction of the 21st century, Say Nothing, Keefe presents here what at first appears to be a work of true crime, the story of a young man who fell, jumped, or was pushed from a high-rise apartment in London. But as the author investigates, a larger, more tangled story about money, crime, class, and influence emerges. Publication date April 7th. Transcription, author Ben Lerner. A poet and author of much admired novels, including The Topeka School and 1004, returns from a work of fiction about a writer who travels to interview his aging mentor, only he's without a recording device after dropping his phone in the hotel sink. Publication date April 7th. My Dear You, author Rachel Khong. The author of the acclaimed Real Americans and Goodbye Vitamin which won the California Book Award for First Fiction, returns with a collection of short fiction that explores love, dating, race, capitalism, and many other things. Publication date April 7th. The Palm House, author Gwendolyn Riley. Riley is the author of the much-praised novels My Phantoms and First Love, and this new one concerns the friendship between two Londoners, a writer and an editor, who meet up to discuss work, life, and their parents. Publication date April 14th. Go Gentle, author Maria Semple. The author of Where'd You Go, Bernadette returns with a new novel about a divorced Stoic philosopher named Adora Hazard, whose well-ordered life and deeply considered existence gets shaken up by a combination of sketchy art deals and her own shaded past. Publication date April 14th. The Left and the Lucky, author Willie Vaughton. I'm already on record as loving Vaughton's previous novel, The Horse, and this new one sounds like a balm for difficult times. Divorced house painter Eddie befriends Russell, his 8-year-old next-door neighbor. Russell's mother has her hands full taking care of her aging mother and Russell's troubled older brother. Everybody can use good friends, or a book about them, right? Publication date April 14th. Books. A Whale of a Tale. Call Me Ishmael offers a new spin on Moby Dick by Katie Gill. Reinterpreting the classics has always been in vogue, whether it's modern classics like James by Percival Everett and Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, or books that have stood the test of time and become classics themselves, such as The Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard. Authors have always adored taking an established piece of literary canon and putting their own twist on it. Call Me Ishmael by Zayola Goa is a new entertaining entry into the well-worn trend. The book is retelling of Herman Melville's Moby Dick, retelling the novel's main plot to the letter while offering inventive twists on the characters. Our Ishmael is Ishmael, a teenage girl who disguises herself as a man to join a whaling expedition. Our Ahab is Captain Seneca, the African-American captain of the Nimrod, who shares Ahab's obsession with destroying Moby Dick's the white whale that took his leg. Other of Melville's characters are reinterpreted as well, bringing new perspectives to the whaling industry, though Ishmael and Seneca remain our focus. Giro obviously wants to play with the idea of duality, man versus woman, black versus white, yin versus yang, us versus them, and plays with that duality through the various backstory changes. The whiteness of Moby Dick the whale takes on a new dimension when the man hell-bent on destroying him is black. The yin versus yang aspect of duality is explored in a literal sense. One of the characters unique to Call Me Ishmael is Muzi, a Chinese advisor to Seneca who regularly consults the I Ching, using the text divinations to try and corral and temper Seneca's obsessions. Muzi is a wonderful addition to the text, and his presence helps bring Call Me Ishmael into his own. Call Me Ishmael is far more accessible than Melville's Moby Dick, a famously challenging book that bounces between varied styles such as straightforward narrative, stage directions, and general nonfiction. Ishmael serves as our main point of view character for most of the book. Her sections are told in plain, straightforward, uncomplicated writing style. While this makes the book wonderfully accessible, certain passages feel more like a young adult novel, as Ishmael grapples with teenage girl rites of passage, like gaining a massive crush on a different ship's captain, and the uncomfortable realization that men view women differently than they view other men. But Giro lets herself have a little fun every now and then. Occasionally we dive into Seneca's point of view, where she gives us a few pages of stream of consciousness, narrative almost Faulkner in nature. The most impressive piece of writing comes at the climax of the book, where the point of view alternates between Ishmael, Seneca, and the whale itself. These brief moments of narrative flourish elevate the book to new and inventive ways. Purists of Moby Dick will inevitably be disappointed by this retelling. It's far more accessible, less complicated, and half the length of the original. 3 things which casual fans will probably view as a compliment. But then again, Giro is not trying to write the next Moby Dick. She uses the text as a springboard to explore new ideas and new avenues for the adventure novel. You can tell she's done her research, drawing on the experience of Japanese whaling traditions, African American sailors, and Chinese divinations to broaden the genre that is, more often than not, remarkably white. If you're looking for a new perspective on established text, or even just a solid adventure novel, you won't go wrong with Call Me Ishmael. Taste. Waffles and espresso turned Fitz into a literary cafe. Restaurant notes. You do not expect nor want a simple answer for what's going on at Fitz Books and Waffles. The people at Fitz can give you better than that. They read, they're chatty, they either make art or appreciate those who do. They share ideals that reading, chatting, and art improve the community. They really love making introductions, said owner Aaron Bartley. They also, as of a couple of weeks ago, eat waffles again. Waffles returned to Fitz almost a year after Bartley moved the store from downtown Buffalo, Main Street, near the West and East Ferry Street intersection, bordering the Elmwood Village and Maston Park neighborhoods. It turns out that waffles are good for business. On Monday afternoon, as Bartley scanned the bookstore, he saw a much busier scene than usual. Several customers were looking at buying and reading books. A table of 3 ate waffles. In the weeks since reintroducing waffles and espresso to Fitz, store traffic has doubled. I think it's just people need a reason to sit somewhere, Bartley said. Cafe culture turns a quick shopping trip into an event. Even a corporation, even Barnes & Noble knows that. Need a place for people to hang out. Fitz is a bookstore in the same way that a library is a place that loans books. It's primarily about the books. Good books, not light reads, but deep, challenging stories are at the center of Fitz. Then the bookstore webs out into other directions. Waffles and coffee, art exhibitions, book talks, writing workshops. Painter Claire Connolly recently displayed her work, a series of realistic oil portraits about childbearing at Fitz. On Monday, she sat at a round table with her parents. They were visiting from Boston. The trio shared waffles and thumbed through a cookbook. Connolly moved to Buffalo from New York City a decade ago with her husband and young kid. They sought a more affordable city, but also one with less pretension. Fitz, in Connolly's eyes, is a bubbling fountain of culture. Its high ideas come from the brains of anyone and everyone. It looks cool, with cool art books and cool modern furniture and cool Belgian waffles, but it's democratic in a way that cool places sometimes fail to achieve while marinating in their coolness. They wouldn't fit the scruffy city of no illusions culture that Connolly loves about Buffalo. It doesn't overdo it, it just gives it a place to exist, Connolly says. I kind of love how straightforward and simple, almost stripped down it is, because it's almost just expressing the fact that people here don't need much to shine. I think another way to say this, said Connolly's mother, Claire, you just feel like you're accepted for who you are and what your beliefs are here. Owner Bartley grew up in Buffalo. His mother, Maureen, runs a long-time downtown flower market. Bartley spent one chapter of his career co-founding and building the local housing nonprofit Push Buffalo. Fitz is his next chapter. At Fitz, Bartley is a barrister and bookseller who listens as much or more than he talks. He's weary of mission statements after a life of nonprofits, but his mission at Fitz is simply to introduce people to something new, some more books, some more life. He introduces customers to new books. He introduced artists to the community. He introduced people to each other. You never know what kind of connection you may make over a waffle. Bartley, for example, may have a new Belgian-California waffle mentor, though it's still budding. He's willing to talk me through certain things, Bartley said. Bartley doesn't have a culinary background. He committed himself to learning one technique, how to make Liege waffles, a Belgian-style waffle, characterized by round sugar lumps the size of freshwater pearls. He makes the dough every evening, refrigerates it to ferment overnight, then balls the dough in his hand, cooking each waffle to order. He presses each crystal into the ball. After a few minutes, the waffle iron, each waffle's about a palm size and satisfyingly chewy. Some are chocolate with cinnamon. A savory waffle slathered in cream cheese and topped with lox, capers, and pickled red onions. Fitz's coffee program is simple. There's a drip coffee, an espresso shot, and a cappuccino. He's still working on his latte art. After scooping coffee grounds from a paper co-op branded bag into a single espresso machine, Bartley struggled to froth the milk. Within 48 hours, I'll have it figured out, he said later, adding, I've never been a barrister until 3 days ago. Food events. The Western New York Book Arts Center is hosting its 18th annual Edible Book Festival from 11 to 2, March 28th, Washington Street. Participants make edible versions of their favorite books. Previous entries include Mr. Popcorn's Penguins and Of Rice and Raymond. In addition to admitting and tasting the culinary creativity, attendees can participate in a basket raffle, bookmaking and printmaking workshops, and shop literary vendors. Registration to participate is open until 9 p.m. March 27th. Admission to the event is $5. Pastry chef Jennifer Batt of Oka Sweets is hosting a pastry pop-up at the Buffalo AKG, Elmwood Avenue, from 5 to 9, April 3rd. The Art of Confection dessert pop-up will be in the Sculpture Bar in the museum's Gundrick building. Museum admission is free for M&T First Friday. Batt's desserts will follow a theme of spring awakening after a long winter. Batt is known for her unique seasonal ice cream flavors, candy bars, and other desserts. Take a Dip. Sometimes a Chicken Nugget by Katie Workman. Sometimes a chicken nugget is just a chicken nugget. Sometimes it's a crisp panko-crusted strip of chicken breast with a sweet and tangy sauce. This is the latter. If you tend to think of chicken strips as a guilty, kitty-centric pleasure, give yourself permission to relax and enjoy them. They're basically fried chicken sands without the bone. But these chicken strips bake on a wire rack for maximum crispiness without frying. A little olive oil in the panko makes all the difference. For a spicy kick, add sriracha to the egg wash. Now the sauce is simple but game-changing. Melt apricot or orange preserves, stir in Dijon mustard and French thyme and dip away. It's sweet, tangy, and herbaceous, perfect for dunking each golden strip. Bake, sauce, and serve. These strips disappear fast, so consider making a double batch for a larger crowd. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the March 22nd issue of the Sunday Gusto. Your reader has been Michelle. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the front section of the Sunday Times. At 2 o'clock, we have the New York Times Opinion section. And at 3 o'clock, we have the New York Times Arts and Leisure section. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. As of this year, our agency has broadcast more than 300,000 hours of radio readings. Volunteer radio readers read newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability, who are provided reading radios. Radio Reading's broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio Reading broadcasts from studios at 1199 Harlem Road in suburban Buffalo. Please let others know about Radio Reading. It's your service. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding